Hello and welcome to YNWA Transfer News, your ultimate source for all Liverpool FC transfer news. Our first news is this. Arne Slot told which two Liverpool players will lead team through rough patch. Liverpool duo Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah have come out of their rough spells over the last couple of games. That's the view of former Chelsea star Gus Poyet, who believes the pair may have relaxed after signing new contracts earlier in the year. Van Dijk and Salah faced criticism for their performances at the beginning of the campaign, but the Reds produced two of their best performances of the season, against Aston Villa on Saturday and against Real Madrid in the Champions League on Tuesday. Salah scored in the win over Villa, while Van Dijk was part of a defense that has kept 2 clean sheets in a row after previously going 7 weeks without one. When talking about Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk, you need to remember the situation last year, when both players needed their contracts renewing, Poyet told BetRight. Nobody knew what was happening behind the scenes, and there was a lot of uncertainty. But they both ended up staying at the club and won the league in Arne Slot's first season. Both Salah and Van Dijk continue to hold a lot of responsibility at the club. One is the leader at the back of the pitch, and the other is the leader at the front, who is responsible for making the difference and scoring goals. When a player signs a new contract, they relax a little bit because the negotiations are over and everything is signed. But you can't afford to relax in the Premier League. Salah and Van Dijk are two incredible professionals. And I think they know they've had a few poor games, but I think their rough patch is over based on what I saw in their last game. Poyet also addressed the struggles of most of Liverpool's new signings. The Reds spent heavily over the summer, but Hugo Ekitike is the only new player who has hit the ground running. Normally, when we see a coach like Jurgen Klopp leave a club, we expect the succeeding manager to struggle a bit to fill the void left by the previous manager, he said. But that didn't happen with Liverpool and Arne Slot. They went and won the league. Then they spent a lot of money in the transfer window, and the expectation was that they'd go and do it again. But now we're seeing the opposite in their performances and results. The players they brought in needed time to adjust to the new style of Slot and the Premier League. That process is hindered when you lose 1 or 2 games, and then before you know it, you're in a spiral. Something fans don't normally pay too much attention to is the impact of a transfer on foreign players. It's not easy to adjust to the Premier League, and everyone is different in terms of character, families, and clubs. Some players might need a few weeks to adjust, others maybe months. So it's never as simple as a player not performing well just for the sake of form. There's always other factors at play. Liverpool handed new Marc Guehi twist as Real Madrid makes decisive transfer call. Real Madrid has reportedly withdrawn its interest in Crystal Palace's Marc Guehi ahead of the January transfer window. The highly coveted Guehi is contracted with Palace until 2026, but it seems Madrid won't be his next port of call. The England international was on the cusp of a move to Liverpool on transfer deadline day, only for Palace chairman Steve Parish to put a stop to it at the last minute. His $46 million move didn't materialize. Yet Liverpool is still keen on bringing the 26-year-old on board to bolster Arne Slot's defense. However, they face fierce competition, with Bayern Munich and Barcelona also keeping tabs on the situation. Both European giants have an advantage, as they can negotiate a free summer transfer with Guehi come January. Guehi, whose contract expires on June 30th, making him an appealing prospect for any club in need of a new center-back, had also been linked with Real. However, despite being available on a free transfer next summer, the financial implications have seemingly put off Xabi Alonso's side. Spanish publication AS reports that Guehi's wages and potential signing-on fee are too steep for Madrid. The Spanish heavyweight splashed out $65 million to bring Dean Huijsen from Bournemouth in the summer and don't have the funds to accommodate Guehi as well. That positions Bayern Munich as Liverpool's chief competitor in the pursuit of Guehi. The Bavarian powerhouse recognizes it might lose Dayot Upamecano when his deal runs down at the season's conclusion, and has earmarked Guehi as its preferred replacement. Bayern continues to harbor ambitions of landing his services. Regardless of whether Upamecano pens a new agreement, Palace Supremo Parish has indicated the club would prefer to see him depart without a fee next summer rather than capitalize in January and potentially undermine Glasner's objectives. We needed to keep Marc because the difference between us having a stellar season and having a relegation-threatened season is us winning 5 games or not, Parrish told Men in Blazers. So the margins in the Premier League are very tight, and you have to remember that Michael Olise has gone. We're okay. Ebereki Ez has gone. We're okay. Wilfried Zaha went. We're okay. There's a limit to how much you can keep doing that before you break down the fabric of the team. Parrish added, Marc was great about it as a person. Liverpool made the offer. It was a massive club. He was obviously interested in going. But he was fine about it, staying, if that was the decision we made. Obviously, it means all of the ball is in his court tremendously as a player, and he's got the choice of wherever he wants to go. Liverpool is facing a defensive crisis after summer signing. Giovanni Leone was ruled out with an ACL injury, leaving Joe Gomez as the only senior cover for Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate. Long-term, Liverpool forward target ready for move. Liverpool added plenty of firepower to their Premier League title-winning squad over the summer transfer window. The Reds broke the British transfer record twice in deals for Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak, while also recruiting Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. Richard Hughes, the club's sporting director, declined to add any new left-wing options to the squad, however. Instead, the Merseysiders offered new contracts to Cody Gakpo and Rio Ngumoha. Luis Diaz was sold. With it believed that Ngumoha, 17, would provide adequate cover and competition for Gakpo. However, there is reason to think that an improvement could be made on the left in upcoming transfer windows. Rodrigo is on the market. We could see Antoine Semenyo, acquired from Bournemouth, for example, and there is also the option of going back in for Rodrigo goes. When Xabi Alonso took over as Real Madrid head coach, there was speculation that Rodrigo, 24, could slip down the attacking pecking order, and so it has proven with the Brazil international starting only 2 La Liga games so far. Rodrigo hasn't scored or assisted in the Spanish top flight, suffering after the arrival of youngster Franco Mastantuono and the return after injury of Jude Bellingham. Although the versatile winger opted to remain at the Spanish capital club over the summer, a report in TBR Football now claims that his situation will be one to watch in January. The Premier League is a real option for Rodrigo. Rodrigo's situation has not improved this season. As we reported in the summer, Xabi Alonso always planned on making Arda Güler one of his key figures, and that has played out as expected, the report reads. With teen starlet Franco Mastantuono also getting regular game time, there is little sign of how Rodrigo can find a route back into the lineup. I am told that Rodrigo is again considering his options, and one possibility is a switch to the Premier League, which could become a real option in January. He is certainly one to watch as we approach the new year. Rodrigo is a long-term target. The report names Arsenal and Tottenham as 2 teams who have been sounded out about Rodrigo's potential availability in the new year. But don't discount Liverpool in the race for the forward, whose Madrid contract extends until 2028. The Anfield side have been interested in Rodrigo ever since his days as a young player for Santos back in Brazil. He had the option of joining the Reds in 2019, but chose Madrid instead. Roy Keane gives Trent Alexander-Arnold reaction amid Gary Neville's blunt Liverpool verdict. Gary Neville, Roy Keane, and Ian Wright are the latest pundits to provide verdicts on the reaction of Liverpool supporters to Trent Alexander-Arnold's Anfield return with Real Madrid in the Champions League. The 27-year-old was named on the bench, but played the final 9 minutes with boos arriving every time he touched the ball. Alexander-Arnold departed the Premier League champions this past summer and opted to join, real with the majority of Liverpool fans taking a dim view to his decision. With that in mind, it is perhaps no surprise he received a hostile reception when back playing football on Merseyside. Despite that, Keane, Wright, and Neville have all issued very different comments, but the trio are seemingly all in agreement it was wrong for him to be booed. The reputation of Liverpool fans is that they're loyal and a level up from most supporters. Keane said when speaking on the latest episode of Stick to Football. But I think for any player to go back, to boo him, people pay their money to go, and that's fine. You're not going to argue with supporters, but Wright interjected. You know what, Roy, when you look at him. When he was a youngster, he'd have been dreaming of winning all those things for Liverpool. He'd think, one day I'll leave and I can come back and it will be great. But the fact is, when he was getting ready to leave, that is what he was thinking about. So I was more concerned for him when Liverpool supporters were booing him when he was there. He would have expected that last night, especially with the way he left. And that was the saddest thing, that he had to deal with that. But that's what happens, especially when you choose somebody else. Especially over Liverpool, they're going to hold that against you. Keane replied, I know Jamie made a point over the last few days, comparing it to Van Dijk and Salah, but they're older players that have had experience abroad. Trent is mid-20s. His contract is up, and he has the chance to try something completely different. Neville then stated rather brutally, Also, Roy, it is Real Madrid, Keane retorted. Of course, but Liverpool fans will obviously think we are the biggest club in the world, like all supporters. I'm not saying you give him the thumbs up for leaving you, but why would you go to a match and boo a lad who has played 260-270 games? Stats are fantastic. You don't have to wish him luck in Madrid, but to go to the effort of thinking, I'm going to boo this kid as a local lad, and Liverpool fans for some reason think we've got class. No, Liverpool fans have to have a good look at themselves. The beauty with Trent over the last year or two is that he has said very little. He's not been one to say, oh, I'd love to stay here. He has actually kept his mouth shut, and sometimes that's not a bad thing to do. How many times do you see players say, oh, I love this club, and then they leave? He kept it cool. It's just an experience for the kid. Again, to compare him to Van Dijk and Salah, they have played in Europe and moved clubs. But for a young player to go and try something new, to boo the kid, scoffs, bloody hell. You don't have to cheer him on, but don't boo him. While the general consensus was it was unfair for him to receive such a reception, Liverpool supporters will have enjoyed Paul Scholes' brief comment on the topic. He probably left a better team to go to a worse team, the former Manchester United midfielder suggested. And in fairness, that was proven by Liverpool's victory over Los Blancos, with Alexis Mac Allister grabbing the winner, and Thibaut Courtois forced to make multiple excellent saves. Liverpool news, 100 meters. Release clause plan for transfer. Target as star sends firm message. Liverpool are putting their dismal spell behind them after bagging victories against both Aston Villa and Real Madrid. The Reds secured back-to-back triumphs in the Premier League and Champions League with Mohamed Salah, Ryan Gravenberch, and Alexis Mac Allister all finding the net. A crucial encounter with Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium looms for Arne Slot's squad. But the Dutch boss has been swift to commend his players for returning to winning ways and loved one aspect of their impressive win against an incredible side. Speaking after the match, Slot declared, apart from everything we can say, we beat them because of a set piece. It's nicer to talk about this if you win, because if you lose, people come up with that. I try to find excuses. But a positive set-piece balance is the minimum you need to get a result 9 out of 10 times, and that's what we had today. Here's all the latest developments from Anfield, including a potential transfer stumbling block and one player solidifying his position in the Liverpool lineup. Despite splashing out a staggering $446 million in the summer, Liverpool are still on the hunt for more talent to bolster their squad. Given the huge amount of money, 262 meters, they also recoupled in a mass exodus of talent. Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers has been on the Reds' radar for a while, with interest in the England international surfacing as the villains grappled with PSR requirements, reports the Mirror. However, Rogers remains at Villa for now and is attracting attention from several other clubs, including Arsenal and PSG. According to a report from Team Talk, Villa are planning to extend the 23-year-old's contract by another year soon. Along with a release clause totaling 100 million, Rogers is currently contracted to Villa until 2030 after renewing less than a year ago. But this new extension could deter many clubs who might be eyeing his signature. The England international has made a significant impact at Villa Park since joining in 2024, netting 18 goals and providing 19 assists in 84 appearances for the club. Slot may still be interested in adding more firepower to his attack, and hefty price tags haven't deterred the big spenders at Anfield recently. Liverpool in contention for enormous 50-minuters agreement. Liverpool have made some extraordinary transfers over the years, and last summer blew most of the club's previous records out of the water. And yet, we may have more expensive feats to come. The direction of football finance over the last few decades has only gone up, as with most other economic measures. Inflation makes a difference, but primarily, transfer valuations have evolved. It's now conceivable that it might cost upwards of $100 million for a highly regarded young player, such as Crystal Palace's Adam Wharton or Nottingham, Forest's Elliot Anderson. It's pretty mind-boggling. World-class stars fit into that bracket as well, such as Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak, and it seems as though there's more certainty behind their moves, although their high cost is still a huge gamble. The notion of Liverpool blowing $100 million on another star in the near future feels far-fetched, but we can no longer rule these possibilities out. Reports are suggesting that the Reds are still pretty keen. Liverpool, linked with ludicrous 50-meter deal in Field Watch, reported last week that Vinicius Jr. is on Liverpool's radar, following his recent falling out with Xabi Alonso at Real Madrid. The 25-year-old Brazilian has opened the door to a departure. In that report, Graham Bailey said the Reds shouldn't be ruled out of a move for him, although issues regarding his contract were emphasized. We've now been given clarification on that. Finance expert Stefan Borson spoke to Football Insider on the matter and said, "Is there a scenario where the teams, Man City, Man Utd and Liverpool, could construct a contract that competed with the contracts at Real Madrid?" The answer would be yes for the usual suspects, but I think it's just extremely unlikely, just because of the scale of that sort of deal. In that sense, the move isn't ruled out, but the concerns around getting an agreement with Vinicius are primarily finance-based. The world-class winger will have high salary expectations in a move. Thank you for watching. Like and comment, subscribe.